Here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Skate Punk Lefty back here, or you can just call me James, back here with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about the struggle of LGBT people, and before we start this video by this wonderful guy named John D. Rudy, I believe he's a Irish guy from Ireland. Appropriately enough, but point being is that this was a wonderful video that literally brought tears to my eyes when I first watched it. You see, nowadays in this society, there has been a lot of bigotry against gay people, and before we start this video and I commentate over it, I'm going to talk about the explanations for this bigotry. Bigotry, to me, at the end of the day, exists to divide workers. They want you worrying about things that don't matter, promote conspiracy theories about different kinds of people who are in the same class as you, so that way you're doing class infighting instead of fighting a class war. So you're worrying about immigrants stealing your job, y'all both working class, y'all got the same enemy of the rich people, but instead you blaming all your problems on the immigrant. And the same could be said, vehemently about the black-white relationship. And of course they want to distract you from actual issues that actually affect you, because if you're straight, things like gay marriage, or if you, it doesn't matter how deeply Christian that you are. I'm Christian too. That didn't stop me from getting married in a straight relationship, because gay people can get married. And a lot of people will try to use Christianity in a way to that people try to use Christianity to attempt to ostracize and speak down on people, while ignoring the rest of the parts of the Bible that say that you're supposed to not judge and accept others. But in any event, though, a few of my life experiences with this, I'll probably bring up later. But it's one more thing I really want to say about, this also, is that we're seeing a lot of not just attacks on LGBT people, but we're seeing, especially in the United States of America, a surge of white supremacist violence, which has been affecting so many different groups of people. And my group goes out not just to my people that the black community, but to the gay community. It doesn't matter what race you are, to the Latino immigrants, the Arab immigrants, to the Jewish people that have been weathering this storm of hatred. Just hold on to hope. And Asian people too, because that was a thing. Just hold on to hope. I feel, one day things will get better. Things do get brighter. These weak men are making hard times in fucking deed, these fascists. But anyway, and it's like a lot of things going on with legislation where people especially are talking about quote unquote trans people and stuff. Like I mentioned in my last video, that's why Dave Chappelle brings it up, is because of class warfare bit. And also because he wants black people to feel disaffected and not vote. But we're especially seeing it from a more, not less Hotep, less Hebrew Israelite, less fake black populist people. We're seeing it from those people too. But we're seeing it from the American white supremacist MAGA Republicans these days as well. And the reason why you are seeing so many attacks on gay people is, of course, it's class warfare. But it's just an attempt, especially in schools, to erase queer people from the public conscious. You see, what's happening nowadays is basically a form of modern day book burning, except with more legislation and pen or signing instead of people throwing books in a fire. Even though that was ironically a viral video from Missouri, they thought people were burning books, but they were like burning Amazon boxes or some shit. But then it got turned around and said like, yeah, I will burn woke books too. But we see all these excuses, and all this post talk justification about sexualization in schools and all this other stuff. And I may just cut to the chase and say this, is that every single thing any Republican or white supremacists say, even though those things are mutually exclusive, is a complete lie when they try to post talk justify not teaching kids things like sex education, not allowing queer presenting people to be in popular media, and not allowing books about queer people. What this is an attempt at is to erase queer people from the public consciousness, so it's easier to sell conspiracy theories about them. Nowadays you got rappers like Lil Nas X and so many other, I don't really know, I don't know any gay icons like that. I think isn't my man's from, I don't think the dude from Millions of Dead Cops is actually gay. I think that was just a song. But I don't know too much about iconography of like queer people, but I know that it's a lot of queer people out here that are pushing an envelope and that are, widely accepted as people in society, but more so than they ever were in history. And when these people are accepted like they are, the harder it is to sell them right wing and white supremacist talking points about them being predators and, junkies or fiends and whatever. So the attempt, to erase these people from schools is to erase, these people from the public consciousness, so people are again more likely to vote Republican. It's very sad that, we have to live through and we gotta watch slash see this, happen throughout time, but that's the basics of what every single Republican pundit and politician is attempting to do. It's just erase gay people from the public consciousness, so that it's easier to sell you conspiracy theories about them, it being something, offensively wrong with these people, when at the end of the day they're just people. Speaking of which, that's what I learned over the years. My name is James, and I hold up the sign, I'm an ex-homophobe and transphobe. And I guess at the end of the day, one thing I asked myself when I came to the realization as I was moving further left wing as a person, I was like to myself one day, what has a gay person ever done to you or a trans person ever done to you to make you not like them? And absolutely nothing. Because most of the problems that were caused in your life were not caused by, gay or trans people. I just looked within myself and I saw like, you just got stupid bigotry inside of you from propaganda and from, right wing church ministries that ain't gonna serve no purpose to you in life. So that's one of the reasons why I dropped this shit. Two life experiences especially helped me sort of in a way build relationships, not relationships with, but just build an understanding of who gay people were and what they stood for. First situation, I was in high school, right? Big fucking nerd, black alternative emo person. I was not the punk rocker that you see today. I never really touched the skateboard before, and I used to do the nerdiest fucking thing. I would play video games on the computer in the school lobby. And of course, some people would like come past or shit behind me and make fun of me. And guess the person who had my back, and I'm sorry if my voice is kind of raising up a little bit and I'm feeling like kind of sounding kind of sorrowish. This is because I really mean what I'm saying. Like, I'm not lying about this event. But the person that had my back was a gay person. And, I appreciated it, and I didn't understand why I was still bigoted. But one thing I came to realize, like, later in life, especially since, I became a left-wing person, and I actually hung around and introduced myself to gay and trans people. I'm like, this person knew what it felt like to be, secluded, ostracized, made fun of, and they were using their popularity and the progress that they made to help me. And I was a person that they didn't know. So that stuck with me for the rest of my life. And it will stick with me for the rest of my life. I ain't dead yet. And the second event was ironically, well, it was two more events. I think one was when I was skateboarding at a gay pride event, and I saw all the people that were honestly just in a place trying to be themselves, trying to have fun, and they were not out there to be weird or hurt nobody. I learned that pride is about similar to I'm not gonna say similar to I guess it is similar to Black Pride or any other thing that you might do, where people just want to be in spaces where they can express themselves. This is also building with me watching more anime and engaging with that type of media. They have more often of the time queer presenting people, male and female or man and woman, in cross-dressing, and trans people and non-binaries of all kind, in gender bending, and all type of stories that make you think about how gender really doesn't fucking matter, you know? Or that these people are just people that are a part of everyday life. But I guess that's with a lot of media. Did you know that, matter of fact, randomly, that Virgil Hawkins' friend Richie from Static Shock is actually gay? They don't talk about it in the cartoon because, you know, I guess they didn't want to push it that far at the time, even though they had an episode about racism. But he was a gay guy, and he was gay in the comics. I didn't know that. But, um, you know, just engaging with more media that had queer presenting people, and I guess, of course, getting further into punk culture slash left wing culture, you know, listening to songs about, you know, not being a homophobe or the stuff that gay people have to go through, or, you know, being, then I guess I learned one of the most important things in my life is that, you know, hate, you know, the people that hate certain people, they run in a circle together. Whether we're talking about the wealthy people or the fascist, and when I say fascist, I'm not just talking about like white supremacists, neo Nazis, and white fascists. I mean Hoteps and Black Hebrew Israelites too, and other groups of people that want to exclude other people. But the same people that hate one group also hate another, and those groups of people become a part of the problem. And the last most tragic event that honestly, because I was a kid, and you know, looking back at it, because I'm trying not to talk like that, but it's just that I feel really strongly about this shit. I was a kid, 17, summertime, first couple years skateboarding. I'm 28 now, so I've been skateboarding for about 12 years. I get on the bus downtown, and I'm trying to go to the DIY skate park, and it's a trans person, you know, trans woman, and people were talking with her and flirting with her. I think at first, but I had it in my headphones, so I really wasn't paying attention to like what was going on. And I was just like, you know, because I wasn't gonna go harass no fucking body. I'm not about to get involved in no shit like that. But I was on the bus, you know, for about 5 minutes, and then I realized that, you know, the people, the things that they were saying, they were not playing. You know, all type of slurs and how they wanted to do this and that to her, and till she broke down crying. You know, somebody that's just trying to ride the bus. And of course, you know, it reminded me when I dealt with bullying, I didn't always have support. And it's like, I wish I could have done more for this person, but I was just, you know, I gotta admit, a scared kid at the time. I couldn't muster the courage to say anything because, you know, I didn't know what would happen to me, and was I gonna have to deal with people trying to do this and that to me. But that event, you know, showed me that there's, you know, a huge problem with how these people are looked at and treated in our society. Even though it shouldn't have took that, and I should have known better. And I was getting to know better over the years, from about, you know, about 16 forward. My opinion started to change, and then about 21, I think, you know, that's when I would say that I became like completely pro gay. Not gay myself, I'm straight, you know, as that can be, but that experience, you know, along with other events happening at the time, like, you know, the Charlottesville neo-Nazi rally, maybe a video on that song, really showed me that, you know, these people are struggling, and they need people to support them. So I'm gonna try to bring it back up, try to smile a little bit, but we're gonna watch this badass video by this guy, and, you know, maybe learn a thing or two. And you see all that shit on the screen about supporting them and whatever, you should go ahead and do that. This guy's pretty good, teaches real history within about 10 minutes.
John D. Ruddy to support this show. Manny Man does history. LGBTQ, that is, lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer people, have had a long and troubled history, with
That's right, I'm pausing it already. This is why I hate when I hear any motherfuckers say, like, oh man, they're still oppressing black people, but gay people have it so easy. Like, you heard some dumbass, like, fake, I care about black people, fake black populists say that shit when, like, these people are still struggling with their rights right alongside us and have been some of the people that have been most incremental, like gay and lesbian and trans white people have been incremental in promoting a less white supremacist society. They're the most likely to sympathize with people who are of different races and classes and help us fight for a better future. But you hear a bunch of dumbasses trying to say, like, oh, you like Dave Chappelle, that fucking idiot. Oh, you know, gay people and trans people, but niggas die every day. Like, what the fuck are you saying, dude? Shut up.
Acceptance swaying back and forth over the millennia. Forms of homosexuality were condemned by some religions, including Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Homosexuality was practiced and tolerated in Europe through the Middle Ages, but intense oppression ensued from the Renaissance onwards, resulting in many gay people living secretive lives. History of queer people can be tricky to pin down because people tended not to leave evidence to maintain secrecy and avoid persecution.
And this is the society that the Republican Party today wants to go back to. The way that they want to back gay people back into the closet and prevent any type of queer representation in media will ill advise people from expressing themselves being gay in public. That combined with the right wing terror attacks that we've been seeing is what the Republican Party wants, or all the fascists in America wants, regardless of their variety. Is, you know, a society where gay people are excluded, along with, you know, racial segregation too, which is a whole nother fucking bar. But you know, that's not this video. But anyways, yeah, this is what gay people had to deal with all up until recent history. Within the past 60 years, gay people have had to live in secret and not say anything out loud. Now sometimes you'll go in public, you'll see lesbian, gay men, you know, people dating trans women out in public, even though you don't really see the last one too much. Because a lot of people, you know, there's still an issue with people are too embarrassed to, you know, take trans women on a date. But the point being is that, you know, these people faced a lot of repression for simply being who they are. And, you know, this needs to be always remembered because a lot of people try to pretend like they've always had it easy. But these people indeed haven't always had it easy.
Homosexual activities were illegal, and living these secretive lives was difficult and indeed dangerous. Many believed it to be a mental disorder, but there were some brave enough to speak up.
They still say
For
that.
example, in 1897, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld founded the first gay rights organization in Berlin, Germany. It continued to be an uphill battle for acceptance. During Germany's Nazi regime, thousands of homosexuals were murdered. The fight for acceptance in the USA was very difficult in a regime deeply rooted in Christianity. In 1924, Henry Gerber set up the Society for Human Rights in Chicago, but it was short-lived. Often, young people were kicked out of their homes if they were found to be gay. Many young
That's still a problem in today's world because, you know, being a skateboarder and a punk rocker and, you know, just, you know, somebody that's in those communities especially. And I also go to crossover shows and metal shows too. There's too many stories, man, where I've heard, you know, of all different races where somebody is, you know, just simply just gay or lesbian or non-gender conforming and their parents put them out. It's people that have literally, you know, been homeless and probably are homeless right now as we speak simply because they just live their life a little different. They're not hurting anybody. They didn't say they want to, you know, harm anybody. They just are what they are, but they're plopped directly into homelessness. It's like I said, it's too many stories like that in a lot of the communities that, you know, I've been around over the years, and it's a damn shame.
young gay people flocked to the cities to hopefully find more like-minded
Literally what
people,
happened here.
resulting in strong gay communities in cities, such as in Greenwich Village in New York. The prohibition of alcohol in America during the 1920s actually had aided gay communities, as many liquor establishments went underground as speakeasies. Many gay bars sprung up too. After World War II, the United States became super paranoid about communists and anyone who could disrupt the established social order. Gay people were seen as this, and their persecution increased throughout the 19th.
That's probably due to the fact that people who are victims of persecution are more likely to have left-leaning views and left-leaning biases. When people seek to liberate people, especially the working class, they usually are of some sort of minority. Not saying that, straight white people aren't inclined, especially because, being left-wing or even liberal comes from people that are highly educated, but, gay people, because of their persecution, they're more likely to have sympathies for other groups and have to, just have it a lot harder in life, so they develop more left-leaning political views. It only makes sense.
The FBI kept lists of known homosexuals, and the American Psychiatric Association listed homosexuality as a mental disorder. Strict censorship codes in the US prohibited the depiction of homosexual characters in films and TV, although often villains were given camp or foppish characteristics to subconsciously make them more sinister, which has had very...
I gotta say, man, like, that was a problem all through all sorts of like Disney movies and stuff. I don't remember any names of them, and all type of supervillains, and in like popular media and TV shows and movies, and I'm sure even in books and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a serious problem where a gay presenting person would be presented as a bad person. It's insane. Like, how, well, I guess of course they did the same thing to black people, and with the with what you call it, the not the Klansman, Birth of a Nation, that's the one I'm thinking of. But with gay people in media, it was just as bad, where every single time you have somebody who's a villain, it'd be kind of clued in that they were gay or something like that.
Very long-lasting effects in queer coding in film and TV.
Yeah, these people.
Homophile groups, as they were known then, such as the Mattachine Society in LA and the Daughters of Bilitis in San Francisco, were set up to support gay men and lesbians, suggesting that gay people are just like everyone else.
Literally.
Because of the huge stigma against anything to do with any of these issues, there was little research done, and thus little understanding of things regarding people who were transgender, and so many of these people were seen as cross-dressers. Many of these people didn't like the Mattachine's straight-laced attitude, believing that they should be accepted no matter how queer they seemed. The 1960s saw a huge amount of protests in the United States, marching against nuclear arms, marching against the Vietnam War, marching for civil rights for African Americans.
And let's keep this in mind for the rest of your fucking life after you watch me say this on this video as I commentate over it. A lot of people like to do this dumb shit. Let me hit this water for this. Where they try to bracket off different civil rights movements and pretend like they were not all related and marching against the same kind of system of oppression. You see, feminism, black civil rights for immigrant people, or people that descend from immigrants, or people that were born here, like Latinos and Asian Americans and Arab Americans and what have you, and even the Native Americans, the shit that was done to them, are all left-wing thoughts, all people who have corresponded and worked with each other for a better future. Because it's like I've said in several fucking videos, or maybe this is the first time I'm seeing it in this new group of videos that I'm doing now, is that fighting for queer rights and queer acceptance, even if you're not queer yourself, is an incremental part in fighting against capitalism and white supremacy. But especially fighting against white supremacy and fighting against gender norms, fighting against, separation of people because who they are. These people worked with and corresponded with one another. A lot of people like to rewrite history and pretend like, somebody like Huey Newton or Fred Hampton or Martin Luther King were just only marching for black people. No, they were marching against capitalism, white supremacy, and they were very pro-gay. So, this sentiment of, like how I think the best example I can give these days is the Dave Chappelle shit, where he's trying to say trans rights are all the way over here and black civil rights are all the way over here, when at the end of the day, the revolution on a social level, not, a national revolution, I'm saying on a social level, that had the acceptance of different races of people, also was the same revolution that had the acceptance of women, especially in the workplace, and acceptance of LGBT people. So, be wary of especially black conservatives and false black populists, where they will try to be like, oh, these black people said they didn't like gay. No, they didn't say that.
For women's rights, and amidst all of this, many gay rights organizations sprung up too. There were some smaller riots by gay and trans people, including the Compton's Cafeteria riot in San Francisco. The Stonewall Inn was a gay bar in Greenwich Village. Because of the law, gay bars were run as private clubs, usually by organised crime, who would pay off the police for protection. The gangsters didn't necessarily treat their patrons with the utmost respect, but it was better than nothing. The Stonewall Inn was run by the Italian Mafia, opened by Fat Tony Lauria. It was a place where people could come and be themselves, away from the outside world. It was indeed the only gay bar in New York at the time which permitted dancing, which was a big draw. During the early 1960s, New York Mayor Robert F. Wagner Jr. led a harsh campaign to shut down the gay bars of New York. Gay bars were often raided by police. If cops showed up, white lights came on to tell...
You see what I'm saying? The cops in society, bro, like, what do I even really say to this? See, this is one of them things where, excuse me, I'm scrolling on my phone doing a video. I know. I'm just reading my wife's messages. But when the police sometimes ask, like, oh my God, people don't like the police. What if you get robbed? Why don't people like the police? It's time to talk about why people don't like cops. This is not going to be the entire video. This subject about why people don't like police officers deserves an entire video. But cops cannot be on the right side of fucking history. It seems like every single time in history when people are marching for their civil rights, even when people are trying to exist in enclaves away from the majority, these people are in a private gay bar, private in quotation mark, but you know what I'm saying. But the police are still raiding it, and when we get to the actual riot in this video, you would clearly see why. But it begs the question, why are cops against black civil rights? Why are cops, when it went, no, let's take it back. Slavery, they were slave catchers. The labor movement in the North, they were Pinkertons. And they formed the municipal police departments that would break up strikes. Later on, of course, they would be fighting and beating civil rights protesters for the things that they were marching against, whether it be the Vietnam War, whether it be the acceptance of people of color, whether it be the acceptance of gay people, whether it was the feminists trying to get the right to vote and express themselves as women and be accepted in society as equal people. The police have always been on the wrong side of history, and yet so many people go on and be wondering like, oh my God, people don't like police officers. But stuff like that's going to be mentioned in this video further, and throughout history in general, it seems like the police cannot find themselves on the right side of history.
Everyone to stop any illicit behavior. Patrons were lined up and asked to produce identification. Any men dressed as women, as the police saw it, were taken to the bathroom to have their gender verified. Women required a certain...
You see what I'm saying? Also on that shit. Like, we see a lot of people... I watched the trans debate yesterday. I think it was what's that woman's name? She debated some turf. It was some turf that she debated. Let me look. I forgot her name. I know she should be at the top of my subscriptions because I recently subscribed. Let me see. Well, the point being is that when she debated this turf, right? And they just like, turfs and white supremacists alike and their allies like hoteps, do this thing where they try to say like, we don't want women in men in women's bathroom. It's like, what are you gonna do? Check everybody's gender before they walk in the fucking bathroom? You're gonna have everybody pull their pants down and there's gonna be a cop right there or something like that? See, when you live in a society like that where you don't just let people use the bathrooms that they choose to, you wind up with shit like this where people, even though this scenario is kind of different, but it's really not at the same time where people are dressed a certain way, but they're being forced to go into a bathroom to verify their gender. It's a damn shame.
Amount of women's clothes to be acceptable. Cross-dressers and those without ID would be arrested. Sometimes they could be exposed in newspapers as homosexuals.
Well, actually, because she said she punched out. So. Alright, so we back. I'm sorry about that. But let that put shit in perspective. Like the screenshot that I came back to, like this screen cap where people were literally just getting arrested for putting on a piece of fucking clothing. Like for no fucking reason, man. Again, the police being on the wrong side of history.
Mayor Wagner's successor, John Lindsay, held off a little bit, but the State Liquor Authority insisted that any establishment which could potentially become disorderly would be shut down. And of course,
and another classic way where state power is being used to enforce the ideals of white supremacy or bigotry against another group.
Gay bars came into that bracket, apparently. The mafia also blackmailed wealthier Stonewall patrons, many who worked in the financial district, which ended up bringing in more money than the bar itself. By the early hours of the 28th of June 1969, the Stonewall Inn had already been raided the previous week. Undercover police officers had been checking the place out for a few hours. Police arrived at the front door and announced, "Police, we're taking the place." Raids usually happened earlier in the night, so when the lights came on at 1:20 a.m., the 200-ish patrons were taken by surprise.
They're like, okay, enough of this shit.
There was no fire escape, so the front door was the only door in or out.
What kind of
As
building,
people were being
man?
lined up, those dressed as women were refusing to go into the bathroom, and people
Fucking good. Like, what in the fuck, bro? Cause like, imagine you a person, right? You just living your best life. You are just, trying to put on the clothes that you want to wear, and then almost every fucking day a bunch of fucking cops just come in and try to tell you to go into the bathroom so they can see your genitals and other body parts. It gets tiresome. So I can imagine like the buildup of frustration these people were feeling.
began refusing to produce identification. People were getting more
Yeah, it'd be better if I just do this another time.
No, you can finish.
agitated as police began to abuse some lesbians they were searching. Those who weren't arrested were kicked out onto the street, but this
I'm actually not even surprised to hear some shit like that. If you actually want to like go do some reading, there's a lot of like FBI shit about cops using their authority, not to not to even mention like the cop neo-Nazi shit, but the cop in sexual abuse shit is like a regularly occurring thing in society, unfortunately.
night they didn't leave. A crowd began to gather in front of the Stonewall, the police still waiting for more patrol wagons to show up. Some bystanders began mocking the police, and many cheered as the mafia bosses were being carried out. But as the police hauled out some of the patrons, people became more angry. as one woman was violent.
At this point in history, it was literally illegal to be wearing a certain amount of clothes that didn't conform to your gender. You could literally like go to jail for it, and often at the time when people would go to jail, they would face police brutality for wearing too many women's clothes, too many men's clothes, if you were perceived to be wearing the quote unquote wrong clothing.
Violently thrown into the back of the wagon, she shouted, "Why don't you guys do something?" And the angry crowd became violent. People began arriving from nearby bars and elsewhere to see what the commotion was. The crowd started throwing pennies and beer bottles at the police as things got rougher. As the crowd was initially dispersed, some people came to a construction site where there were piles of bricks, so new
Oh,
projectiles were thrown.
it's like God gifts are sent from heaven. They spawned out of nowhere. It's like on Grand Theft Auto or some shit where you find a weapon.
Forcing the police to retreat. Many of these people were the most downtrodden of the community, and they were angry. Some police barricaded themselves, and some handcuffed detainees inside the Stonewall Inn for protection. Police reinforcements of the Tactical
Now
Patrol
who needs
Force
the gay
arrived
bar?
and formed a phalanx to push down Christopher Street. The crowd formed a chorus line and mockingly kicked at the police, singing as they went. The police beat them with batons, but it only angered the crowd more. The police were vastly outnumbered by the crowd and were ultimately driven back for the night. Several protesters had been hospitalized and 13 arrested. 4 police officers were injured.
Good.
The next day, news coverage of the riot attracted thousands more people, many gay, many allies, tourists, and some agitators who just wanted to stick it to the man. Gay people were openly showing their affection for each other on the streets. It was liberating. Some had printed flyers to promote their cause, to legalize gay bars and get the mafia out. People like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were standing up.
Ain't that a real damn shame that the only way that LGBT people could like, have like some sort of place to go, it had to be like through criminal enterprise where people, because like now, I'm not saying gay bars are the safest places on the planet, especially we're seeing that with the surge of like neo-Nazi hate crimes and shit. But I'm saying like it's a shame that back in the day it was literally a criminal act for gay people to have a place that they can go, because it's like you can't be gay at home, you can't be gay, at your public place, or express your transness at your public, places that you go to or places that you work at. And even when you try to find enclaves with people and that you can be in a community with that share similarities with you and what have you, you still had to do it through some sort of criminality.
With pride. The thousands of people spilled into adjoining streets, surrounding cars as they were driving through. Many cars and buses were rocked and harassed until drivers admitted to either being gay or supporting gay rights. Over 100 police arrived that evening, but as the night went on, the Tactical Patrol Force arrived again, and more street violence ensued. But once more, the protesters held their
Again,
ground.
it's like I said towards the beginning of the video before I left, before the jump cut and everything, is that for some odd reason you got so many cops just like walking around every motherfucking day, or you got a lot of dishonest hacks like fucking white supremacists pretty much that be like some, why don't people like the police? If you like get your bike stolen, who are you gonna tell? And then you read like a million stories about cops breaking up union strikes and beating gay people, beating feminists and people of color that are just, trying to, express themselves in public. And they wonder why. Because I've gotten into an argument with a cop about this in a 7-Eleven before. He's like, oh, I'm here to serve the community. I don't understand why people don't like cops. And then you read through history and you see shit like this.
The next few days of protests were quieter. The Village Voice newspaper was somewhat unflattering to the protesters, so the crowd descended on their offices only a few doors down from the Stonewall and threatened to burn it down. The Stonewall riots were the beginning of a new phase in gay rights. People wanted to be more open about who they were.
Every LGBT person basically starts to sing the "We're Not Gonna Take It" song.
Unlike the straight-laced Mattachine Society, who didn't even want hand-holding at their protests, let alone people wearing what they wanted. The following year, people such as Brenda Howard organized.
That's a whack ass way to like express your your will to be treated as equal. That'd be like saying like, oh, if you want to be accepted by white people as a black person, maybe you should straighten your hair. Like, get the fuck out of here. I feel like at the end of the day, that the whole point of LGBT rights and LGBT liberation is for them to be able to express themselves in public and be as gay or as trans as they want in public. Trying to placate to people's wants for you to be gay but not gay in public or some shit like that only serves the interest of keeping you in the closet.
The Christopher Street Gay Liberation March to mark the first anniversary of the uprising. Marches
Oof.
in other cities were organised too, and people of what would later become known as the LGBTQ plus community marched with pride for their rights. These marches would evolve into gay pride parades as people became more comfortable to take pride in who they are. Over the next few decades, the LGBTQ plus community would face many obstacles, including the horrendous AIDS epidemic of the 19.
Oh yeah, even though he's not gonna divulge into this too much, because I watched this video before. Sorry, but Ronald Reagan for at least 8 years literally let an epidemic of AIDS just like rage in the United States of America and did little to nothing to stop it. Even though he was told by several people that it was like a major public health concern among especially black people, African Americans, and LGBT people, but he said that it's bullshit that you would hear sometimes around some Christians when you talk to them about HIV and AIDS, but like it's divine punishment from God to just like let hundreds of thousands of innocent people die for no reason.
80s and 90s. Across the Western world, LGBTQ people gained more rights and more acceptance.
And it's really, really bad because he was told about the AIDS crisis in 1981, but didn't say a fucking word about it until 1988. So he's just like, okay, AIDS is a thing. It's George Bush's problem. Sorry.
Some more than others. But people are still persecuted in many ways in different places. As people gained more freedoms, humanity gained the freedom to explore the true extent of our experience, looking into gender and how much of the strict male-female binary is a social construct. The Stonewall Inn opened and closed under various names over the years, but reopened as the Stonewall Inn in 2006 and remains a popular gay bar to this day.
I'd be the straightest person in there, but I would want to visit that place just for the hell of it. Just because it's a huge piece of like civil rights history and stuff. I'd just like to go up in there and just take some pictures one day.
Stonewall is an example of people who had been pushed to their limits under an oppressive regime. Things got violent because they had been trying for so long to fit into a world which constantly rejected them. A new world was built from the ashes of the Stonewall Inn. Special thanks to Kevin Carter and A.E. Spickle for helping in the writing.
And that's all, folks. I hopefully that we all learned something today about the struggle of LGBT people. Hope you learned something from my personal experience that I've laid out in the beginning of this video, and hopefully throughout this entire history video with all this guy's history and my commentary, that you are able to come to the conclusion that gay people, LGBT people in general, have struggled and still struggle to be accepted and to be treated fairly. And there's a lot, and again, there's a lot of things going around where people are trying to push gay people literally back in the closet, and just know that at the end of the day, these are just human beings. At the end of videos and stuff like that, usually I have something humorous to say, but to be honest, this episode, even though it was heartening to hear about the people stand up for themselves, it was still a very sad story. Maybe my next video will be kind of funny. This is the Skate Punk Lefty. You have a good rest of your day.